This video is a tutorial for the cards shortcut file, which is included in the shortcut file library of the Inline Scripts plugin. The cards shortcut file allows you to use virtual cards, such as playing cards or tarot cards. Cards are stored using the state system, so your work will be saved between sessions of Obsidian. For more information on the state system, you can run the shortcut help state. So the first step to using the card system is to create a folder with all of your card images. In this case, I'll be demonstrating with this tarot cards folder. The card system is based on cards and card piles. The first thing to do is to define the piles that you'll need. You can do this with the cards pile shortcut. In this case, I'll create a deck pile and a hand pile. I'm going to create the deck pile down, face down, and I'm going to create the hand pile face up. This means that anytime I see cards in the deck pile, they'll be face down, while anytime I see cards in the hand pile, they'll be face up. I'll also create a discard that's also going to be face up, but I'm going to set the show moved flag to no or false. And finally, I'll create an out of game pile, and I'll use the defaults for both the facing and the show moved variables. The facing defaults to down, and the show moved defaults to whatever it was set to previously. So the discard card pile had set the show moved to no, so this will also have show moved no. I'll come back to that show moved feature a little later. So once we get the card pile set up, the next shortcut to know is cards from folder, which takes that folder of card images and creates a card from each image. First it takes the card pile to put the cards into. We'll put them into deck. And then it takes the folder where all the images are stored. So cards/tarot. Another useful shortcut, cards list, shows a list of all the card piles along with the number of cards in each one. The next useful shortcut is cards draw, and this allows you to move cards from the top of one card pile to the top of another card pile. We're going to draw 6 cards, and we're going to draw them into the hand from the deck. Notice that the order of parameters is count, destination, source. This might seem a little counterintuitive, but I'll show you why it's this way in a minute. Okay, 6 cards have been drawn from the deck card pile into the hand card pile. Notice that they're drawn really large. The card system has a few global settings, which can be changed from the cards settings shortcut. The first setting is the size. Let's set it to 75, which is pretty small. The other setting is the back image. Let's leave that alone for now. I'm going to draw one more card to show you how the size has changed things. This time when I draw, I'm going to use the defaults for all the parameters. The default count is 1, so it's going to draw 1 card. The default destination is whatever the destination was the last time you drew. The default source card pile is the last source card pile that you drew with. And you'll notice now that the card is drawn small. Okay, before we continue with the card system, I want to touch on a really useful extension to the card system. It's called the Cards Pile Viewer. And you can see that it only has one shortcut, but that shortcut is a pretty big deal. What it does is it opens an Obsidian panel through which you can view different card piles, for instance the hand card pile, and it even allows you to set the size of the cards that you're viewing. Also, you can open multiple viewers, which is useful for seeing different card piles at the same time. Finally, you can interact with the cards in the card pile viewer. You can double click on them to rotate them, upside down or face up. And if the cards are perfectly square, by the way, you can actually rotate in 4 different directions rather than just the 2, upside down and right side up. You can also drag them around to reorder them. And that's all there is to the card pile viewer, but I wanted to show it now because I'll be using it for the rest of the demo. Let's return to the card system shortcuts. So I bet you noticed that the deck is showing the cards face down and that the card back is distinctive. You can actually set your own card back with the card settings. We used this before to set the size, but if you want to leave the size the same, you can just space past it. And then to set the back image, you give it a path to a back image file. So in this case, we're going to use back tarot, and that's within the cards folder. So cards/back tarot, and don't forget the extension JPG. Now it's using this image as the back facing for the cards. Okay, so now I'm going to be drawing from the hand into the discard pile to show a couple things. First, pay attention to the first 2 cards in the hand card pile. We have the Magician and we have the Emperor. And for the heck of it, I'm going to flip the Emperor upside down. When I draw to another card pile, cards draw, I'm going to draw 2 to the discard pile from the hand. Notice what cards have been moved and their order. We have the Magician and we have the Emperor face upside down. So it draws directly from the top of one pile to the top of another pile. Also, notice that the expansion message doesn't show the cards like it did before. This is because the discard pile has the show moved flag set to false. You can change the card pile specific settings with the cards pile settings. You have to tell it the name of the card pile you want to change, discard. You can define facing up or facing down. Let's keep that the same, so I'm just going to space past that. And then show moved, let's set that to yes. Now I'm going to draw one more card. And again, I'm going to be using all the default settings because I want to draw one card into the destination of the discard pile, which I did before, so that's the default. I'm going to draw from the source pile of the hand, which again I did before, so that's also the default. Notice that the expansion message now shows the card. So again, cards are always drawn into the top of the deck. If you want to put them somewhere else, you'll have to drag them into place. Okay, now I'm going to draw into the out of game pile. I'm going to draw one card and the destination is out of game. I can keep the source pile the same because I'm drawing from the hand. And the out of game card pile is set to face down, so the card shows up as face down, and it's listed as face down in the expansion message for the draw. Also, we don't see the picture of the card in the expansion message, both because it's face down and because the show moved is set to false for out of game. Another interesting shortcut is called peek. This lets you view the top cards or the bottom cards of a card pile, even if they're face down. We'll peek at the first 3 cards of the deck. And we're going to leave from the bottom to the default, which is no, so we're going to peek at the top. So we can see that the deck's first cards are the Chariot, Strength, and Hermit. And if we draw 2 into the hand, we'll get the Chariot and Strength. Chariot and Strength. And if we draw another 2, we'll get the Hermit and something else that we don't know. The Hermit and Wheel of Fortune. Okay, another shortcut is cards pick, and this works a lot like the draw except for that it allows you to pick which cards you want to move. So we're going to pick from the hand into the discard. We'll pick Wheel of Fortune and Strength. When we click OK, now the discard pile has Wheel of Fortune and Strength. If we do it again, and we'll pick the Hierophant. Now we have the Hierophant. There are also some shortcuts for manipulating cards in a card pile. For instance, cards shuffle lets you randomize the order of cards within a card pile. There's also an optional rotate, which if you set it to Y, will randomize the rotation of each card. The next shortcut is cards unrotate, and that will take all of the face down cards and turn them to face up. There's cards reverse, and that's going to reverse the order of the cards in a card pile. The next shortcut is cards recall. And this one's an interesting one. Every card in the card system has a card pile as its origin. When you use the cards recall shortcut on a card pile, let's say deck, all of the cards that have that card pile as their origin will be moved back to that card pile. Say cards list. Now all the card piles have different amounts, but when you say cards recall deck, cards list, all of the cards have been moved back to the deck card pile because they have the deck card pile as their origin, because when we first made the cards we put them into the deck card pile. You can manipulate the origin of cards with the cards reorigin shortcut. So let's say we have cards draw, we draw 5 cards into the hand from the deck. Okay, and then we're going to say cards reorigin hand. If we draw another 5 cards from the deck into the hand, now we have 10 cards in the hand. And then we call cards recall deck. Only those cards that weren't reorigined are moved back to the deck. These cards are now part of the hand. In fact, if we say cards draw 5 to the deck from the hand, then we say cards recall hand, those 5 cards will move back into the hand. Now that we've seen the recall feature, let's take a look at the cards remove shortcut. First I'm going to do cards draw 3 into the out of game from the hand. Okay, so now the out of game has 3 cards. If I say cards remove out of game, that's actually going to remove this pile altogether, including all the cards inside of it. Unless I say recall. If I say recall Y, it's going to try to recall all the cards in the card pile being removed. And you can see all of the cards were moved back. Now there's 2 more shortcuts that I want to demonstrate. The import and the export. These allow you to take a card pile and turn it into a data string that you can save, and then later take a data string and turn it back into a card pile. So for example, let's draw 3 cards into the discard from the hand. And then we're going to export the discard pile. Now here is the data string that holds all the data for the discard pile as it is right now. If we remove the discard pile and we don't recall, not only is the discard removed, but those 3 cards that are inside there are also gone. But now we can create a new card pile called discard, facing up, show moved yes. And it starts empty, but we can import cards import discard, and we're going to pass in that string that we saved from before. And now the state of the discard pile is what it was before we removed it. In fact, those cards even still have the hand as their origin. So if we do cards recall hand, those cards move back into the hand as if they had never been removed. So that's all the shortcuts in the card system. And before I end, I wanted to point out one final thing. There's an extension to the card system called Cards UI. And this shortcut file has one shortcut for every shortcut in the cards system, except for that these shortcuts are all user interface based. So for instance, the UI card settings allows you to change the size of a card and the back image of a card from a UI rather than typing them into a shortcut. And the UI cards draw shortcut allows you to pick the source and the destination card piles and the count from a nice user interface. I'll leave it up to you to explore this further. I just thought it'd be worth mentioning. So that's all I have for this video. I hope that helps. Thanks for watching.